How's it going? Just wanted to put a quick note at the start of this podcast. This episode was actually recorded about a month ago. I think it was the 14th of May. Some of the dates that the guys talk about in the podcast may have changed. Some of the gigs, such as the Suffocation show in the Limelight, was, I believe, either cancelled or postponed. So if the guys are talking about anything on the podcast, as in like gigs or dates that you're thinking of going to, do double check before assuming that they're on. And with that all said, let's get on with the podcast. Welcome back to the Wrong Kind of Music podcast. We've got a bit of a different episode going on today. It's myself with you as always, and we've got Phil back, our regular on TWKOM podcast. But today, joining us, we've got Adam, vocalist from Archives.
Yep.
Gavin, vocalist from Survivalist.
How's it going?
If you go to gigs around Belfast, you'll probably caught these guys at some stage. How's things with you? As well?
All good.
Yeah.
Living the dream.
Busy.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I've been looking forward to getting like more people on the podcast and stuff. So it's great to have you up. Cheers for coming up.
I know we've talked about it for a long time, like, and it's taken a while to get here.
I want to talk mostly nowadays about, because there's a lot of bands you see in Belfast and they play Belfast quite a lot, and that's kind of like their base. You guys seem to have used Belfast as your cutting your teeth area, but there seems to be a big focus from you both on playing England, branching out and getting the name a wee bit further out. I know you've both recently come off the back of small tours in England, and you have got tours set up with a bit more dates on them and stuff. I think I've pretty much just said it, but what's your thoughts? Why focus on England so hard and be playing Belfast less often, do you think?
Well, for me, it's just like when you play Belfast all the time, the likes of Voodoo and everything, which there is a great scene, and the venues and everything are brilliant. You can build up like a bit of a community, and every time you're playing, you're seeing the same people. Like, I guess the whole point is each place you go and each place you keep going back to is to build up the same kind of thing. So you have lots of little sort of like little community,
little islands of support.
Yeah, just what Adam said. So something that we've been trying to stay away from is playing too many shows in Belfast, because I know obviously there are bands out there like Nomadis and Mortal Backlash, and they're flat out in Belfast every other weekend, and it's brilliant. You go to see them live and it really, really shows, and their live performances are so tight, and they're like Nomadis and Mortal Backlash have their sets down. They're so tight. But for us, we didn't want to go and play to empty rooms. So I feel like whenever you, especially if we're obviously now supporting bands like Suffocation and stuff, and we've got a couple of other things lined up as well that are really, really good. So last thing we want to do is start making these bigger connections and then bring nobody to these shows. So we've now tried to settle in at the 3 Belfast shows a year, and preferably bigger things. So like instead of like maybe our own headliner, which there's some stuff coming out about soon, and then good opening slots and festivals and stuff like that, like the likes of the Crypto of the Rift festival and those like wee mini festivals that are on and stuff like that. So
Gigstavals, as we call them.
Gigstavals, yeah. There definitely are Gigstavals, but I obviously wasn't at the last Crypt because we had to pull out, but from what I seen, the turnout was brilliant.
Those guys get a hell of a lot of support,
Yeah.
And they always put on brilliant lineups.
Yeah,
I feel like sometimes when you see lineups of that amount of bands, you look at maybe 2 or 3 bands and you go, well, they're on there because they're trying to bulk it up, or because they're giving their mate's band a set or whatever.
Yeah.
Crypto Riff.
Is it 2 days?
Yeah,
it is.
I think they do a 1-day one and they do a 2-day one.
It's always top quality. Like, it's always good stuff. We're hoping to get Jake on sometime to get
Jake's
a wee yarn
He's
about that.
Very nice bloke.
There's no filler in that. Like in that Crypt of the Riff lineup, there's never a filler band. You earn your spot on that one.
Yeah.
It is. Fuck, it's premium these days, and like I'm sort of holding it up there with like I get as excited for that as I get for about anything throughout the year. And then you've got like it's kind of I've said it before in this podcast, it feels like it's our siege.
Just about to say that.
It feels like it's our siege.
Except you're allowed to mosh at it.
well, we've been told that things have lightened up
maybe
down in Dublin.
No, the last one, I think Tall John is absolutely lovely bloke, and he had us on the last time we were down, and you guys have been down as well. How did you get on?
Brilliant. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah,
there's definitely moshing allowed in our room anyway.
we had moshing, but it was like stealth moshing. So Wayne was up at the front when we played, And there was a bit of motion going on and stuff, and somebody put a hole in the roof or whatever. Like, but
Yeah, I've seen a few photos there recently. It doesn't seem that that's disappeared.
no,
Don't know who that was.
I have no idea. But
That's
yeah,
character.
Tall John's a lovely bloke, and the venue's class, and that I think Belfast needs something like that, and I think Crypt is getting there as well with the size and stuff.
It is, but without a doubt, I think the only reason that we wouldn't have something like Siege is a lack of venue.
Yeah,
You know, if there was somewhere we could, I know that James done stuff before with the 3 rooms of the Limelight.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. It's probably the only place you could really.
Just think
Really
stuff
do
like
it,
that's
yeah.
tricky to put on
Mandela
Belfast
or
at the
something
minute.
maybe, but I haven't been down there yet since it's reopened.
Yeah.
So I don't know what it's like.
Was
Looks like some spot
I
we
reckon
went
there's
to see.
I seen him on So I Watch You From Afar down there.
Yeah,
Fantastic venue. My only criticism of the place was that the bar's a bit small, and it was packed out that night. Now I wasn't drinking at it, but I was kind of looking at the bar going, if I was drinking,
I'd be waiting 4 hours for a
there's a
drink.
hell of a queue at the bar. You know, I don't really understand. I mean, it's fucking Belfast, like, you know, they like a drink.
Yeah, that's it.
And the thing is with the bar, you know, the bigger your bar,
Sorry, guys.
I've always think people standing in a queue are people not spending money. They're people
Yeah,
willing to spend
true.
money. You know, get that bar widened out, and you're gonna have twice as much money rolling over. You know.
Yeah,
It's just back to
But it is what it is.
What you were saying there about going away. I think, you know, whenever you saying about cultivating Belfast as a hub to play gigs, I think whenever you announce them, people will come.
Yeah.
But if you keep hitting English cities or English towns on the regular in the same way that you hit Belfast on the regular whenever you first started, I think what you're hoping is that you'll get that same
Yeah.
turnout.
Yeah, so that's-
you know, and that's the idea. Yeah, that's what you're wanting to get. You're wanting to cultivate that local knownness.
Pretty
Make yourself
much,
a local
yeah.
band in every city.
Yeah,
in the
that's what
UK.
we've been
that's
trying
pretty
to
much.
do.
Yeah.
And we were speaking briefly there before the podcast, and I'd said about we're 2 of the venues that we went to in England the last time were Twisted Tongue in Whitehaven and the Bridge Inn in Rotherham, and we actually bought those back again for this next leg of shows because it makes sense. It's exactly that. So if we play, you know, if we do a tour every year, an England tour every year or twice a year,
Yeah.
it makes sense to hit some of the same venues again because then you're building up, and it has shown as well because there are people commenting on posts and stuff being like, oh, the boys are coming back, can't wait to see them again, and there's like people tagging their friends and stuff being like they're coming back, and it's really good to see that.
Yeah,
Like it's building
yeah.
up another mini community in each city, like, so
It's exactly what you want. I mean, if you hit there, you hit the venue and you played for talk's sake, I don't know the size of these venues, but if you played 60 people, then you hope that the next time you come back, maybe it's 75 people,
Yeah.
and the time after
Yeah.
that it's 100 people, you know?
that's the plan.
I think
yeah.
there's a lot of bands, I mean, seeing it from our perspective, there's bands come to Belfast and they don't get a turnout, so they don't come back. And to me, I know
It can be
there's
disheartening.
there's finances involved and stuff, but it seems a wee bit defeatist, you know, come here, make 20 new fans,
Yeah.
they'll tell their mates, this band was fucking great, you gotta go see them the next time they come over, and
Yeah.
it builds and builds, you
I think similarly the way you're trying to do it over there, it's like actually if they want to do it over here, do something similar. And I appreciate it's really, there's not a huge, you're playing Belfast, Dublin and Limerick, maybe Cork as well.
Yeah.
But generally Belfast normally gets that wee Thursday night slot.
Yeah.
Which nobody goes out to.
Fresh off the boat.
Yeah, fresh off the
Yeah.
boat Thursday night. That Harbinger gig, like Harbinger were absolutely insane. They were brilliant. But I just suffered from that Thursday night syndrome, and you've got like this band that's absolutely slaying it, coming out, and front man in the middle of the room starting his own mosh pit with about 35 people in the room, and great gig, but it's, you know, it's hard for a front man or band to come and
It
see
was
that
a
every night, you
shame.
know?
Like we had a bigger turnout, and we were opening for them.
Yeah.
And I really, really hate when a band like Harbinger puts a local band on for support, because it's support. They want people in front of them, and
Yeah.
it really annoys me whenever a local band come and they leave the show before, like they finish their finish their set, and then they leave and they take their friends with them that all turned up to, you know, the gig. So we didn't do that. We tried to we hung around till the end, like, except for me. I worked next morning, so I had to leave, but everybody else from the band stayed about, and we tried to keep as many of our fans about and stuff like that.
That's
People that
it.
came to see us, but a lot of them did. They did water down. So
I've seen it so many times before, because to me, like a lot of the bands that are kind of trying to push themselves but aren't going further afield in Northern Ireland, they're kind of like the peak opportunity they get is getting on a support slot with a band that they respect. And I've seen it so many times where it's like, oh, it's fucking brilliant, unbelievable, we're getting to support such and such,
yeah.
and then they don't even stand and watching.
Yeah.
You know, they go outside and
Aye.
smoke and drink and chat to their mates, and it's
It's all about support, isn't it?
You know,
Support each
The
other.
word
and-
support, aye,
Yeah.
it's in the clues in the name. Like, just stick around. Like, I'm not going to mention the band's name, but we had a band when we played our last Leg of England shows that did that. Now, luckily, the turnout for the place was brilliant already, but I watched them all leave, all their friends and the band themselves all left, jumped in, got all their gear and left.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they'll not be getting any more support slots.
See, we need someone. I don't know if you remember back if you went to the Warzone much, but in the
Few
Warzone,
times.
see when the
Few
bands
times.
came on, someone would go out to the balcony and shout at people, "Get back in here!" and stuff.
I
I
remember
can
that.
need that now.
Yeah.
I think in Voodoo, it's like get back in now. You're not getting back in at all.
It's one thing I'd love to see, right? And we've talked about this before, and it's bands get on stage and bands like just start playing. It's first chord. Whereas like what would be nice is somebody emceeing it and getting up and being like, you know, kind of give it up for this next band, etc. Like, so we talked about that, especially at Metal of the Masses. But we're like, you know, somebody
Would be
getting
good
up
at Metal of the
and-
Masses,
and
actually.
introducing-
I love it.
It
So
would
you
work,
know
it
what-
would
we would
work
do it
really,
in a
really
heartbeat,
well,
you
yeah.
know.
You
Having
know.
the good rock music playlist playing in the background, have somebody
Yeah.
come up and be like, and make an announcement before the band comes on, because I think,
gives that
That's-
bit of time for people to get back.
yeah, Metal of the
Yeah.
Masses in particular, like, it happens where a band will come on, their friends are all standing in front of them, they watch them, and then it's like, right, out the smoking area, and then the next band that come on are playing to an empty room, and I've seen it so many times, and it's like, it's not
I
very
think
fair, like,
there's been some nights that have been a bit like that at Metal of the Masses this year, and then there's other nights
they're
where
flat out.
everyone have stood and watched every band.
Brilliant.
And I think from
That's what you want.
from the semi-finals on, you
Yeah,
kind of got that.
Start
and I
letting
think
them
that's because you're due to the process of it. That's where the better bands are. You know, the
Yeah.
further along the process that you attend, the better a set of bands you're going to get to watch. You know?
No, I agree.
Tell me this. So, whenever the band's just starting out and you're looking for gigs in Belfast, it's a fairly easy thing to do. You go to a gig, you find out who the promoter is, you're probably familiar with other bands and stuff, and very easy to get in contact. But before you start looking, you probably don't know any promoters in England. You don't know the venues.
Yeah.
You don't know what other bands are at the same level about you. How do you go about finding those contacts and getting those gigs and stuff from what is essentially a clean sheet to start with?
Well, like, there's various companies and stuff you can use, but it's also like you have resources that will come to you if you're putting stuff out a lot on the internet, and it's about using those resources, like, because you'll get people like other bands and stuff will reach out to you and say use their class or whatever, and you'll look and they'll be from Manchester or something.
Mm-hmm.
If these people reach out to you, or even like fans are hitting you up being like, come here, it's about even hitting them up and being like, okay, cool, who seems to be running shit where you're at? You know what I mean? Like, just keep making connections and
Yeah, yeah.
communicating with people. You know?
So social
I think-
media, social media is your biggest weapon. You networking is the best way to do it. And what I do, like we had obviously we've actually got a load of contacts now. We've some other tours coming out this year to announce as well. So we've other bits and pieces that are coming in there through different booking agents that we haven't used before. But it was more like I see a tour, so I see a certain band on tour, and I see that tour do well. I'll message the person who's putting it on and just be like, do you want to help us out? And see, to be honest, everybody I've spoke to so far has been lovely and really, really helpful, especially some of the English and Scottish bands that have been helping us out. So like people we've never really met before, people we've never played with, we've just reached out to them and been like, can you give us a hand? And they've been like, yeah, absolutely. And with 2 tours coming out, that's exactly what happened. It was just a case of reaching out to the band, having a chat with them, and then they put us in contact with promoters and stuff. And it's about building that network, social media, constantly reaching out to people, constantly having conversations. And I think one thing that a lot of bands, like you said about people messaging you, like fans message you asking to come and play places and stuff, and a lot of bands just ignore those messages and they don't reply to them, whereas we take a really personal approach to our social media. If anyone reaches out to talk about anything, we've had people talk about mental health issues, we've had people talk about like their own personal problems and stuff like that, and I think it's really, really important while you're in a band to realise the position that you're in, where there are going to be people who look up to you and there are going to be people that respect you in that way, and they want to have those conversations and not to ignore them because they're your fans and they're the reason why you're on the stage in the first place. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you look at metrics much, kind of like before, during, and after a tour? Like, would you kind of go, right, we've got, for talk's sake, 1,200 followers on Facebook, we're about to go on tour, how many will we have by the time we come back? Or Spotify plays or anything like that? Do you take that into consideration before and after sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we keep a real close eye on everything, figure-wise, data, numbers, stuff like that. We get a lot of like playlist guys who put playlists together, and we would be on a lot of their playlists. So I'm constantly watching our Spotify numbers go up and down, and constantly watching followers go up and down and stuff. We're kind of plateaued on Instagram at the moment, so we're doing other marketing campaigns and stuff to bring that back up. So social media is where you're going to win your wars. It's where you're going to win each battle, and I think it's really important as a band to keep an eye on that. And some people think like putting a song out and playing a show is going to be the be all and end all of being in a band, but it's not. There's so much more to it now. And if you want to make something of that and you want to go far, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to the numbers.
Do you find even putting, I suppose, and I see it more and more from, I suppose, local promoters, local bands and stuff, putting out stuff, sponsored posts, and driving it through that way. Do you find, is that something you consider? Is that something you do?
I think everything's worth doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's no real silver bullet in these things. You've got to be doing it all.
It's a shotgun approach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really, it's you're trying to just hit something, and hit as much as you can, really. That's certainly evident, and there's that many people out there in social media and all on different platforms too.
Is TikTok a bridge too far though?
That's where we're on now. We've
He's
literally,
on TikTok.
so we've made a TikTok. We hadn't for ages. Nick's in charge of TikTok, and
there's a joke there to be made about Dance Gavin Dance, isn't there?
not yet. But we've been getting decent views. Some of our videos have done really, really well. It seems to be getting followers on TikTok is the slow part, but getting likes and views is really, really good on it. And it has reflected, like we have seen Spotify growth and stuff from it. But really our TikToks are just a load of pissing about and us just getting on like an absolute knob, like
Getting to the point though, isn't it?
Kind of what TikTok is.
flossing and
I don't have it personally, so
No, I'm the same. It's the one that I'm just like, enough's enough. Like Twitter, Instagram,
We're gonna keep going.
Enough.
Only fans next.
only slams.
Only slams. Adam, you've got played on Radio 1.
Yep.
Yeah, like big mainstream radio station. How'd that come about? Like, is that something you applied for, or did they pick you guys up?
We sort of applied for it, like through BBC introducing and stuff. And I think I only the email I think was actually in my junk folder on my emails, and I only noticed it like a day or two before, and I was like, holy fuck! And then it went then through DMs, and then happened. Like, but yeah, it was a long time before we were planning on releasing the music, but there it was,
Yeah,
it was good.
And is that something where it was just like a cool moment, or did that actually lead to things? Or?
I think it probably like subconsciously leads to things, like, because it's kind of like an impression, if you have that on your like your feed of stuff is like an advert, isn't it really? If anybody clicks into it and then they see that, they're like, oh cool, so they're worth booking or whatever.
Yeah, it looks brilliant. Like, it looks good when you see stuff like that, and I think a lot of people, especially people who wouldn't be as like well versed with this sort of stuff, they, as soon as they see BBC carrying those big names, it's like, wow, like it's really, really good. Like whenever I seen it, I was like, fair play lads, that's even with with knowing the portal and stuff like that, but it still looks brilliant, and it sounds good. Like I actually listened to the track whenever you played it on Self-Inflicted, whenever it was on the radio, and it sounds really, really good. Like, it looks good, and it's good for promotion, stuff like that. So
yeah. I just lost my train of thought because the cat's gone.
Yeah. Cat had something to say there.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, I think the fact that there's bands like Bring Me the Horizon that like used to be really, really heavy bands, and they're kind of drifting towards a more mainstream sound and stuff. And I think that's given people an in on that kind of music, and is opening it up to Radio 1 and stuff to play more stuff like that. So I think, I mean, I don't like Bring Me the Horizon at all, but I do think they're doing a certain amount of service to heavy music.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, I guess that would be this generation's Linkin Park or whatever it was that got you into metal in the first place.
Yeah, Bring Me the Horizon wouldn't be one of my favourite bands, but I do appreciate what they do, and they do occasionally come back to being heavy. Like, they released a really good and solid EP in 2020, and it was back with lots of heavy breakdowns, lots of screaming vocals, like it was back to old school.
Tease you back in.
Yeah, and then like the next release after that was just a pop song. And I think that's cool. It's something that we're not going down that route.
Sure.
Yeah, anyway, I'm not going to say never say never. But like we're experimenting with a lot of different styles and a lot of different sounds, and you guys have heard the new unreleased track. It's very different than anything we've put out so far, and it's something that we're still experimenting with. And obviously, with having some new member changes and stuff like that, we've been able to experiment a bit more. And I think that as a band, it's so important to not stick to one sound, because you'll pinnacle at one point. You'll never get new reach or growth or anything like that. And if you have multiple different types of sounds and songwriting styles, then you can bring in more people, and it's more palatable to people as well. And they might be like, well, I like that song, but that's way too much. Like, so you give everybody a little bit of everything.
It's about enjoying what you're doing too, you know.
Yeah.
Like enjoying trying different things that you've never done before and
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah. And feeling limited.
Absolutely, yeah. And pushing yourself as well in terms of writing is always really, really fun. Might be pulling out what little hair I actually have left, like, but it's still really, really, really good.
And that writing process for both of you guys, like, is that something that do you feel that it's something you actively sit down and do, or is it something that just you have a notebook and you just write down whenever inspiration strikes, bit of both, or like what is it for both of you guys? Like, is it I have to sit down and give it all my focus?
Well, I pick a concept or an idea for a song, and then it will be probably, sometimes it's a quick process, but a lot of the time it's like drawn out for a few weeks. Like, I'd be walking somewhere, like with my headphones in, I'll go, oh, and I'll just, into my notes on my phone, just write down one line that's probably terrible, but I'll always refer back to it and stuff, you know.
Exactly the same. My favourite topic of any of your songs is self-inflicted. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
But for obvious reasons. But I do the same. Like, we could be, see, when we were coming back from our last tour, we sat in the car, we got bored, we're playing stupid games, and just like everyone was wrecked. So at one point we ended up having like a brainstorming session. So we were in the car and we were shouting song names out, song lyrics out, song ideas out, like stuff like that. And that's actually where Vision of Violence, I'm not going to say the song name, but that's where Vision of Violence and the next song that's coming out very soon, but it's nearly ready to go. Like, that's where they came from, that brainstorm, that session, and then we got those, and then everybody wanted to kind of wind down on the way home, so I just sat and wrote lyrics out for those, and then I send them over to the boys, and Thomas actually gets a lot of guitar inspiration from reading lyrics. So he'll sit and read lyrics and be like, oh, I can imagine a sound for that lyric.
That's cool.
It's
like
very
collaborative.
Yeah, cool. Thomas writes very differently than anybody. Like, he almost writes backwards. Like, he
that's
starts
what I
at
was
the
going to
end.
say, because in my experience, any bands I've been involved with, lyrics were always the last thing to come.
Yeah.
You know, it's like almost the whole song had been written and each segment and all paced out, and then it's like, there you go, we've written a song, put some lyrics over the top. And I always felt that was kind of the wrong way to do it, because it means you're forcing lyrics to fit a song. You know, and I can't say, hold on, this needs a wee bit more breathing space at this section, or that just wasn't something I was particularly good at, if I'm entirely honest. But no, that's fucking interesting. That
It's very cool.
You know, you would sit with the lyrics and then put a riff underneath it.
I very nearly keep letting the new song title slip, and I really don't want to, because
I can beat you out.
Yeah, fair enough. So the new track, we actually spent about 2 weeks on it. We literally went into the practice room and practiced a couple of times beforehand, and then we got Reeson once before going into the studio. So we literally played through the song live once, and we're like, yeah, good to go. They see the writing process since Reese has been obviously collaborating with us, and since we tried to do everything ourselves and self-produce for Rot, and then
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah,
we went back to Josh. Since we've gone back to Josh, and since the team that we have now is the most efficient team we've ever had, and it's silly how quickly we can get songs out now. Like, we've so many songs, catalogued now, they're ready to go. So the writing process has been really, really fun recently, which was a very drawn out process for a while there for us.
I've always thought that the self-producing thing's cool if you've got someone that can do it, but even at that, I think if you're a band that have aspirations, you should be paying someone who really knows
Absolutely.
what they're fucking doing. Who do you record with?
Josh as well.
Yeah.
There's nobody better in the country. There's no, and like, Rot sounded okay. Rot sounded good. Like, it was what it was. Like, it was a good song. There is actually a lot of people. I think it's your favorite track of ours, isn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah, I remember you saying that you really liked Rot. There are a lot of people that really like it.
No, I'm a big fan of it, like, as well. Yeah, it was whenever you played it through the phone speaker on the barge that time. I was like, this is
full of drink.
Yeah, full of drink. I was like, this is
full of the
amazing.
buggy.
Yeah.
But it is a good track, and I love it. But you can tell the difference in production whenever you listen to Rot and you listen to anything that Josh put out for us.
Mm-hmm.
And Vision of Violence, the last track, like, the production on it was insane, and it's the same for this next song. Like, it just sounds huge. Like,
And I know you've put it out, you know, and sort of in a roundabout way. Is it a standalone outside of, like, let's say a new EP or a new
That's a
album?
good question.
Or, you know,
Rot?
Rot itself, does it stand alone outside of a new album or EP? Or would you consider, like, maybe taking that back to the studio and doing it for a new album or EP?
we actually have discussed it.
Yeah.
We've discussed re-recording Rot completely. We don't know. Maybe in the future. I think that there will maybe a remaster of Rot will come around, because it's such a good song, and it's such a fun song as well. Like, you see playing it live, because it's so simple and it's so straightforward. Like, you can do so much bouncing around, and like, the last time we played it live, I don't know if you've seen, but Thomas ended up flipping over Nick's back.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
he did the old school flip thing. So we actually
Add in some stunts.
we're practicing
Some
once in the
trampolines.
room. We're like, well, we'll say I did a wee jump off it. Yeah, so it was cool. Like, it gives you a bit more freedom, and it's cool when you get those easy songs. Because Vision of Violence and this next song are not, like, they're a lot of work, like, vocally and guitars and everything are just flat out constantly. So it's nice. I think the next song we're doing after the one we've just finished is going to be a more straightforward one to give us more breathing room on stage, because we
Get the trampolines back.
absolutely Dragon Force it, like.
No, you do need that. You need a wee bit of light and shade, like,
Yeah.
for your set. Otherwise, you're just gonna bust yourself every time.
Yeah,
you
just
know?
a hardcore track every now and again as well. Like,
So then, what about music videos? Is that something that is? I mean, how important do you think music videos are to promoting your band and stuff?
have you seen the Self-Inflicted video?
Is that the one?
Where
We
they're
did
in
that.
the asylum? Where they went to.
Crumble jail.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Yeah.
did see that. I did see that actually, because
Brilliant.
I've always had an idea of doing a video in the Crumlin Road jail, and as soon as someone uses the venue or whatever, to me that's it.
We talked about it with somebody once, and the prices
That's
were
it,
too.
that's it,
Just they were
don't
just like, nah, it's, I
It's
don't want to pay
mad,
that.
mad money, is it not, to be hiring out to jail and stuff?
I can't remember exactly how much it was, but it was okay. Like, I think, you know, for, like, because we had obviously, like, they had to hire a member of staff to stay in the building with us, because we filmed it, like, through the night, like, to, like, 2 in the morning or something like that. But they had, like, this, like, wee guy who was, like, 17, 18, who was just there, like, oh, I'm just overseeing this, and he was just, like, in the corner, like,
Your escort?
this whole prison, you know,
Yeah,
that's creepy as fuck. But
Yeah.
He's probably from a security company who will remain nameless and getting paid minimum wage. Just but he's sitting there, he's like,
just sitting there watching videos on his phone,
Be
like,
alright
in the middle
though
of the
if
prison.
Be alright though if you're into it, weren't you? If you're into that kind of music, you'd be like,
I was so impressed with that video. I thought it was really, really good. So we obviously, music video wise, we have the video for Greed or Gluttony. Sorry, we did with Josh, but like, it looks good for what it is. But we literally recorded that in the studio, and we just put a black sheet up behind us all, and it looks good. But it was a lamp, just a lamp that was already light source, and then we did obviously the video with yourself. In
Carindoo House, was it?
Carindoo House, yeah.
Yep.
it was, yeah.
And it was so much fun that day. Like, we all had a brilliant day. Like, it was a long day, but like, it was so much crack, and actually just getting out and all of us being together. And then we, music video wise, we want to do one for this next track, so I think you're going to be getting a DM pretty soon, like,
Nice
about
one.
that.
Slide in those DMs.
Keep that. Yeah.
Slide in.
So just touching back on the England thing again, like, if you went to England and, whenever you go, and I know this is talking about finances and not everyone wants to talk about finances, but do you go on these tours with an acceptance of, this is going to cost us money, right? We're going to be out of pocket, but we'll come back with potentially 200 new fans, or do you try to do it in such a way that you go like, right, here's our expenses, here's how much we're getting paid for the gigs, and if we sell X amount of t-shirts, we'll break even or we'll make a few quid. I mean, what's the approach on the financial aspect of it?
Well, like, we try to come back with profit and try not to be out too much, because obviously, like, being from Northern Ireland, like, obviously you're paying for a boat to go to England, which is like big money, and then you're bringing over a car or a van or whatever you're doing, so it is going to cost you money. But I think I wouldn't worry too much about money, because it's like, well, as you say, it's about building up. You know, maybe like you'll come back with 200 fans or whatever, but
spend money to make money.
Yeah, but also we try not to lose too much. But yeah, just happens sometimes. You know, you run into hurdles and stuff. You'll get fines. Like, we got parking fine the last time we went away and stuff. You know, so it's like these things happen. You know, and you just have to be ready for. You know, just don't be too attached to it. You know.
You guys had a tour bus last time, right?
The big RV thing.
Did you stay in that?
Yeah,
class. That's
The
brilliant.
proper tour bus.
Oh, it was like a camper van, you know.
But it was.
Alright, okay.
It looked the job like.
But
it looked
the
fantastic.
extra expense of that means you're not paying for accommodation, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, so it was good that way, but like it's got rough at times. Like, a few of the boys got sick and stuff, you know, and we're all just crammed in this tin can together. Like,
yeah, I was going to say, like, you'd need to be a fairly close knit band, because I've been in bands with people that I would not want to sleep in the same camper van, you know, like, not in a million fucking years.
Yeah, we have actually been really fortunate, and none of our we've either made money. Well, no, with any tour we've done so far, we've made money on. The tour we've just booked, everything all in. With the nights that we're getting paid for and what we get paid per show, it's paid for. The tour's already paid for, so anything merch wise we sell, is profit, and we also, on top of that, the money that we're making from the shows should give us a little bit of profit as well. So the accommodation, if you are smart, which Nick did a smashing job. So 4 nights accommodation for 5 people plus a photographer, so 6 people. That's Recall the Remains. One of their friends is going to be staying with us because we have extra space in the places we're staying. So for 6 people, is costing just over £200 for 4 nights.
Jeez, that's unreal.
For 6 people.
it's good. Like,
So we used Airbnb.
Nick should be a travel agent.
He is fab. He is brilliant. So we've got we've got everything locked in now. So Stu does all the booking for the boats and stuff like that, and then we get Nick to do all the travel stuff, and everything's been real smooth so far. And you stayed in Rotherham as well. So it's actually 3 nights. Sorry, so it's not 4. I did tell Fib there. So 3 nights is just over £200.
That makes it that entirely changes. That's not good value.
So yeah, we're staying in Rotherham, which is a really cool place. Like, the Bridge Inn's, it's got 2 stages. It's big bar. People who run it are lovely. The owner is an absolute gent. And they sort you out with drink, all that there stuff, and then you've got the only problem with Rotherham is there's no working shower. So the next day we'll have to literally shower before
you get a cold shower. No?
You can get a cold shower in something that literally feels like somebody's just standing over you going.
Festival shower.
Yeah. But, the actual accommodation, the bed and the beds and all that there, and the room is really cool. And there's a coffin in it for no reason.
Yeah, in the bed when we were there was just a coffin.
Yeah, there's a coffin in one of the rooms, and it's pretty, like, the venue itself is very gothic decorated and has like band posters, and it's got like a stack of Marshall amps for like one of the walls and stuff. It's very metal oriented.
A lot of medieval shit as well.
Yeah, it's very cool. There's like
maces and shit on the wall,
like a torture chamber and stuff in it. Like, it's awesome. Like, it's a really cool venue.
Cool place.
One thing I'm curious about this, and I'll pitch it to yourselves, but you can talk about other members of the band as well.
Okay.
How do you manage the temptation to, on one hand, you want to remain professional, put on good shows, but at the other time, you're away, you're going to places.
You want to party.
You want to fucking party, like, and especially if, I mean, whether you like it or not, part of networking and part of our whole social culture is alcohol.
Oh,
and,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, I think if certain bands went away and didn't drink, and then there was all the other bands were kind of drinking, it might make it difficult for them to kind of
get in.
Make that in that you need with those bands. So how tricky is that? I mean, are there people in the band that are kind of like, I'll be the sober one tonight and everyone else just gets fucking wrecked, or what's the crack?
For me, like, I don't know why I'm like this, but like, I need a wee bit of a buzz before I go on stage, just to kind of, get rid of the nerves and stuff. So I always have a handful of pints or red wine. I've been drinking before I go on stage recently. But I think some of the guys are good at like not drinking. Like Sal, our guitarist, for example, he can very easily just.
Sal's not a big drinker at all.
He can just watch TikToks on his phone all night. You know, he's like happy enough. But I don't know. I like to on a tour. I like to designate like one night. Right, that's the night we're all gonna go at it. You know, on our last tour, whenever we played Brighton, it was like the second last date. So it was like, right, it's my birthday the next day, so we're all going to drink that day. So every other night, you know, you're having a couple of pints, then go to bed, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
So just designating it for me works, you know.
It makes it a lot harder when you're playing venues that give you all your booze for free as well. Like we've got a couple of the places that we go to, and it's completely free. So yeah, the last time I didn't drink at all. The last tour, it was 2 nights. I think I maybe had about three ciders like the whole time. And then, but this tour, I've said the very last night I'm gonna actually have a proper drink this time, because I haven't done it yet. I haven't been out on a tour and actually had a good drink. Like, so the rest of the guys were like they're all well behaved. Like they're all they're pretty sensible. Like they
not gonna lie,
fair play to them.
Find that a wee bit hard to believe, if I'm honest.
No, they are like they're like, I think Reese will probably be the biggest drinker in the band now. Like, so like. Yeah, I think in terms of like the drinking and stuff, we're all good. Like they will. I'm not saying they're not going to drink and party and all. Like they are going to do that, but they're all pretty sensible. Like they're all.
The end of the day, it would suck balls to, as we talked about the finances, spend all that money,
go over and
go
not pay
all the England,
shitty shows. Like
promise people really good shows and then not be able to perform.
You won't be invited back. Like nobody's gonna. If you like, that's why I'm really happy that like 2 of the venues that we went to last time have let us come back, because it shows that we went and put on good shows. Because you're not going to bring back a band that came and were hanging out their assholes and played to 4 people, like, you know what I mean? So, we're pleased that we got invited back by 2 of the same venues as well.
I think I've just one last question for you, because it's the sort of thing, like, we would go away to festivals and stuff, and we end up chatting to people that are in bands and stuff, and way back when, we used to say to people, you know, if we seen a band we'd be like, you should come to Belfast and stuff. But then over the years, we've seen a lot of bands that do come to Belfast and don't get a crowd, so we don't really do that anymore, because you don't want to encourage someone to
come over and flop,
to make bad decisions
somewhere. You guys obviously, whenever you go over there, you are making connections with other bands, and I know that, I think, Adam, you guys are bringing Rituals over, is that right?
Yeah.
And you guys have talked with Odysseus?
Yeah.
Is that not announced yet?
It's not announced yet, but yes.
Just bleep over that.
No, you're all good. You're all good. They won't mind. We're just waiting to lock in one more date. So,
right.
And then we're bringing them over, and we've also got plans to bring other people over as well.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it's show for a show almost now. Like one of the tours we're going on later on the year, it's not announced yet. We're going to help those guys out and bring some of those guys over here as well. And I think that's the best thing you can do is really make friends, to be honest with you. And you've got to remember, like, everybody can help each other out in this game. I think there's so many people, and that's no harm to Northern Ireland and metal culture in this country as a whole. So many people fight against each other, and they don't want to see other people doing well, and they hate it. And there's some bands out there that cannot stand seeing other bands do well, which honestly is a shame, because it's not like that in England. The culture over there is like, they are so supportive of each other, and they help each other out where they can, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's everybody. There's a lot of really good supportive bands and supportive people in this country as well. It's a handful of really negative people that like really
I kind of get what you mean, but I don't want to go into specifics, but there's an event coming up soon, right? Anyone that knows the metal scene, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which is a wee bit ambitious, to say the least. Someone's trying to do something a bit fucking different.
Okay.
And most people
I know what you're talking about.
Quite excited about it, and I think it's fucking great, and it's like, but I've heard a few negative comments about it, and they never seem to come from a logical or a rational place. It just seems to be someone's trying to do something, and someone else just has to go, well, I'm going to point out the flaws in the plan.
The biggest problem with Northern Ireland.
Yeah, and it seems a wee bit.
There's a lot of bitterness. There's a lot of weirdness and a lot of competitiveness when you shouldn't be. Like, Acid Age just won Metal of the Masses. Absolutely brilliant. Well. They've entered 5 times, 6 times, or whatever, and they've just won. And they're now going to go and play Bloodstock, and I think they'll get a really good response at Bloodstock, because the kind of music they are and the kind of guys that they are. They're all really nice blokes as well. I spoke to them all a handful of times. I think they're all really, really sound, and I think they deserve it after the amount of times. But I've heard from a couple of people that are just negative about it for no reason at all. And it's just like, why do you, if you don't have anything nice to say,
Like I've said before, no band, promoter, or venue should be outside the realms of criticism. If someone is doing something that's
Worth
criticizing, people should say it, because I mean that's how everyone learns, isn't it? You know, you've done this good, you've done that good, you've done the other thing good. This here, not too sure about. Don't
Absolutely.
think you know. So I think you need that. I think that's important. But just being negative or criticizing things for the sake of it, or because there's something underlying that where you're a bit like, fuck, they're actually done really good, so I have to run them down.
They've just
As
won.
I think it's.
What is there bad to say?
In my experience, it's few and far between.
Yeah.
But there is an element of it there. Like there's no denying that.
It's a very Northern Irish thing, though. Like it's like, you don't like people don't like to see people doing well.
No, not at all.
They hate it. Like that's it's not just it's not a mental thing. It's actually
it goes in lots of
whole, like
I think
it's like
don't get me wrong. If you went to Metal of the Masses and you were supporting your friend's band or a band that you're a fan of or anything like that, and they didn't win, express your disappointment. Like that's what people do. You don't go to a football game and your team loses and you go, "Oh, happy days! I'm glad Manchester United won or Spurs won."
Reason to drink.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like that's not what you do. You do express your disappointment, but there's no reason to put the other team or the other band in this case into the ground. Like you know what I mean. Like they got to where they got and they did what they did because they performed well, and they were chosen because they performed well.
You don't win that competition. You don't deserve to win that competition.
No,
especially if that's Simon Hall standing there.
Yeah.
You know?
I kind of drifted away from the point I was making there. Whenever it comes to meeting other bands and stuff and making those contacts and then bringing them over here, where I would say relatively speaking we probably have a smaller metal scene than the places they're playing. Is there ever a fear that fuck, what if we bring them over and they end up playing to 12 people?
That's why you bring them over to support. So what we're doing, I don't know what you guys would. I've seen the Rituals tour, but I wasn't 100% sure on it. So you make sure we had booked for our tour that we were bringing an English band over. We had booked one of the bands that were on your tour, but you hadn't announced it yet. So I actually had to have the awkward conversation and it's 2 weeks before. So I was like, sorry, like we're gonna have to find other support. And I love the band as well. I love all the people in the band. They're all really, really lovely guys, brilliant people, brilliant crack. But it was just a business decision, like I'm bringing a band over from England who have never played a show before in Ireland or Northern Ireland, right? There's a band playing on the roster who were originally on it, but they're opening for you guys in the same venue 2 weeks before.
Sure.
That's 60% of their crowd that aren't going to that gig. So I said this to the booking agent, and me and him had a chat, and he did try to fight against the decision, but I was like, look, I'm just not going to do it.
I've heard of promoters offering people gigs and going I will offer you this gig, but you can't play Belfast for 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after.
I've heard of that happening.
Yep.
And I've seen people being really, really critical of it, right?
It makes sense.
You're right, it does. It makes a whole lot of sense,
James,
because if you've got them, especially whoever's got them on the first time, if someone goes out, if I go out and see, for talk's sake, fuck me, I'm struggling to even mention a band. If I go out and see the Boat Sank, right, and then a different promoter's got them booked for 2 weeks later, chances are I won't go to that show. I've just seen them.
You have the option of either now.
In fact, that's probably a bad example because I would go see the Boat Sank.
They're brilliant. Chris Mahood is some pop. He's a good drummer. He's a good lad as well. He actually he auditioned for Survivalist, but I can't even remember what happened now. I think he ended up just getting too busy with the Boat Sank, and I just think he was a bit overwhelmed with having to drum for 2 bands, and we just didn't really hear from him very frequently. So it was and then we had somebody else lined up who was also auditioning. So that was no bad blood, because he pre-ordered one of the long sleeves that we got out. So he's a lovely, lovely dude. I've known him for a long time as well. I've known Chris probably, I'd say, got to be 12 years, 13 years. And he's just always been just full of energy and full of beans. And I don't think people realise that the Boat Sank have been practicing for years now. They've been practicing for a good few years. I think probably before lockdown. Yeah. That those guys were practicing together, and they have their own practice space and stuff.
Maybe get him on sometime for a chat.
He's a really good bloke, and he's so much energy as well. I think he would. I think you'd enjoy having a chat with him.
We've mentioned this before. I would rather see a drummer, and I'm not saying Chris is sloppy.
Yeah.
I would rather see a drummer that was a wee bit sloppy but gave it beans than someone that was like
technically perfect.
Yeah.
Or have both, like Jack.
I can't even remember. I've seen someone before, and they were like literally like a robot drumming.
Yeah.
You know, the face was just dead. And
How are they enjoying it?
That's,
That's the thing too.
I think it just depends on how you learn and your background and stuff. But
That's why I think Jack's brilliant from Archives, because he does both. Like he has
shoes off.
he takes his top off. Man's in some shape, like he's in some nick. He go, man must be in the gym 5 days a week, like, but.
Nobody wants to see that.
He takes his top. Well, I think Wayne fell in love with him the last time he seen it. Like,
there's a couple of wee drummers that I've got a thing for.
But he took his top off, and it was just. I think we were on the drinks at the barge, and you turn around, and you're like, or something like. It was just like you were just so impressed, and like I was like he's in some shape. So yeah, Jack's a brilliant drummer because he does both. He's technically fantastic, and he also has so much energy.
Yeah.
Reese as well. Reese does the same. Like Reese can give it full beans. I've seen Reese windmilling and all, like whilst he's playing drums, and it looks so sick.
You wonder how that multitasking works. Windmilling and
I can barely speak and walk at the same time. Like so.
Yeah.
I think everybody in your band gives it fucking beans. I think both of your bands actually, there's not one person on the stage who doesn't really
so much
give it
energy
the
and
fucking
yeah.
beans. I think it's a big part of the musical style that you guys have.
Yeah.
Is that like you can't get away with standing.
No,
playing. You
not
just
at
can't do
all.
it.
And like Stuart as well. Like everybody in Archives gives it stacks. Stuart's always like he's older, and you're the same. Like Nick and Thomas, and we all bounce into the crowd and try to get involved. And yeah, it's good crowd.
Right. Should we maybe wrap this up then?
Yeah.
Do you want to pimp your tours then, and give us an idea of where you're playing and when,
Work away.
and who with?
Right. We are touring in August with Rituals, co-headline tour in Ireland. We're playing Cork, Dublin, and Belfast, and then before that we're playing London, Weston Supermare, which as far as I'm aware we'll be playing at like 1 a.m, and then we're finishing that with Bristol. So sweet, come out.
Yeah, so we're next tour is next month in June, starting from the 15th to the 18th. I can't remember the orders of the actual dates, but we're in Stafford in the Red Rum, we're in Trillions in Newcastle, we're in Twisted Tongue in Whitehaven, and we're in the Bridge Inn in Rotherham. Then we come back off that tour. Before that we're in Dublin, and then we come back off that tour to open for Suffocation in the Limelight in June. So
With Party Cannon as
with
well.
Party Cannon, which is going to
Most
be
important.
That's gonna be the best crack.
unbelievable. Yeah, mate, those boys are so much fun, but they're using our gear as well. So we'll obviously have to.
What about your music equipment that you're using as well?
I'm a massive fan of both bands. Suffocation were the first death metal band that I ever bought an album of. I was probably about 13, 14. And it was an HMV, and it was like discounted like £3. And I remember looking at the album art. It was just their self-titled album, really standard S logo. And I remember looking at it being like, "That's amazing." And now getting the chance to open for those guys is incredible. Like it's, I don't even know why we're on the bill either. It doesn't make any sense. But with
Well, to be fair, like Suffocation and Party Cannon are quite different from each other, aren't they?
well, they are
That's what I think,
apparently
so.
Suffocation is starting to try and diversify their shows, so they actually want more core bands and stuff like that because they want to bring a new audience to their music. And a lot of death metal bands are doing it. Cattle Decapitation are doing it massively, where they're bringing bands like, I know obviously Lorna Shore are also death metal, but they're not the same. And like Cattle Decapitation fans are not Lorna Shore fans.
That tour earlier in the year that I went to, I had Dying Fetus, Nasty,
I've seen that.
Frozen Soul, and I can't remember who the fourth band was, but again,
And Cabal were on it, and Cabal are deathcore band.
so you've got
crazy,
hardcore,
actually,
you've got
yeah.
deathcore, you've got thrash, and you've got.
But that's what you need. I think diversity is good because it brings more
especially
people.
for a tour, yeah, definitely. No, that works. I think it really, really works.
I think bringing in the same, if you have 3 death metal bands on the bill, you're just getting the same people that are going to go to see both bands. Whereas you get like there are going to be people at that show, if they stayed for Suffocation, they're probably going to cry. People that would come to watch us play would just have a mental breakdown watching a Suffocation gig. Like, but I'm so excited as an actual like fanboy of the band. Like, I loved them since I got in the mill.
Well, listen, cheers coming on a little. Cheers for coming on the podcast. It was good seeing us as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
that's good.
yeah,
Thanks
it's
very much
fantastic.
for having me.
Always really, really good.
Good luck with the tours. Good luck with the future releases and whatnot. You
Thank
know.
you.
So, and Phil, cheers again for coming on as always.
No worries.
Cheers for watching the podcast. We'll wrap it up here. As always, keep listening to the wrong kind of music.
Keep her lit.